Imagine this, you're at a luxury dinner, surrounded by high society wine lovers. The sommelier pours a rare 1996 Bordeaux, and as everyone swirls, sniffs, and nods in approval, you just sit there, unsure what to do. Awkward, right? Nothing screams "I don't belong" louder than not knowing how to taste wine like a pro. But don't worry, today, I'll teach you the 8 secrets sommeliers use to decode wine like experts. From the perfect swirl to the ultimate aftertaste test, you'll never feel lost at a wine tasting again. Ready to impress? Let's dive in. Wine's hidden colors in 1775. A French monk, Dom Perignon, held a glass of wine up to the candlelight. He wasn't just admiring the glow, he was decoding its secrets. Today, sommeliers do the same, using sight to predict taste before even taking a sip. Imagine you're at a luxury dinner. A sommelier pours 2 glasses of red wine. One is deep purple, the other a brick red. Without tasting, he smiles and says, "One is young, bold, and fruity. The other is aged, smooth, and complex." How did he know? The answer lies in the color. The shade of wine tells its age, grape variety, and even climate. A bright purple wine, likely young, fresh, and full of juicy fruit flavors. A deep ruby red, maybe a mature Bordeaux with rich, velvety tannins. A brownish tint, perhaps a decades-old vintage, softened by time. In 1990, wine expert Jancis Robinson shocked the world by correctly guessing over 50 wines just by looking at them. She proved that true sommeliers don't just drink, they analyze. Next time you hold a glass of wine, tilt it against the light. Watch how the edges change color. See how it clings to the glass. Thicker legs mean higher alcohol or sweetness. Before even smelling or sipping, you'll already know its story. Want to impress at your next wine night? Start by looking, not drinking. Because in the world of fine wine, the first taste is always with the eyes. The swirl secret in 1955. A young wine student, Jean-Claude Barouet, watched his mentor swirl a glass of Bordeaux. The deep red liquid danced, releasing rich aromas of cherries, oak, and spice. "Why swirl?" Jean-Claude asked. His mentor smiled and said, "Because wine needs to breathe, just like us." Swirling isn't just a fancy move, it's a scientific trick. Wine is full of hidden aromas, trapped inside. When you swirl, you introduce oxygen, which wakes up these flavors. Without it, a fine wine might taste flat, muted, or even bitter, but give it air, and suddenly, magic happens. Picture this, you're at an exclusive wine tasting. 2 glasses of the same 2010 Cabernet Sauvignon sit before you. One is still, untouched. The other has been swirled. You take a sniff. The first glass smells faint, almost dull. The second, bursting with blackberry, vanilla, and earthy notes. In 2003, researchers tested this by measuring aroma release before and after swirling. The result? Swirling increased aroma intensity by 40%. That's why sommeliers always swirl, because they're unlocking the wine's true identity. Next time you sip wine, try this. Hold your glass by the stem, give a gentle swirl, and take a deep breath. Notice how the scents evolve. Layer by layer. You're not just drinking, you're experiencing wine like a sommelier. The sniff test in 1976. During the famous Judgment of Paris, wine expert Steven Spurrier watched as judges blindly sniffed 2 wines, one French, one Californian. Without tasting, they predicted which was superior. The twist? The California wine won, proving that smell alone could decide a champion. Your nose is a superpower when it comes to wine. Sommeliers can identify over 100 aromas, from fresh berries to aged leather. But how? It's all about training your senses. Imagine you're at a luxury restaurant. The sommelier pours a 2015 Pinot Noir. Before sipping, you take a deep sniff. You catch notes of cherry, roses, and a hint of earth. Instantly, you know this wine is elegant and smooth. Without smelling, you'd miss half the experience. Science backs this up. In 1999, researchers found that 80% of what we call taste is actually smell. That's why, when you have a cold, food seems flavorless. Wine works the same way. Without smelling it first, you're skipping the best part. Want to master this? Close your eyes, take a slow inhale, and break down what you smell. Is it fruity, spicy, woody, The more you practice, the sharper your senses become. Next time you drink wine, don't rush, let your nose guide you. Because in the world of sommeliers, the first sip starts with the sniff. The 3-second sip in 1982. A wine critic named Robert Parker took a single sip of a 1961 Chateau Latour and instantly declared it one of the greatest wines ever made. How? Because a trained sommelier knows that the first 3 seconds reveal everything. Your first sip isn't just about taste, it's about balance. Is it sweet like honey, acidic like lemon, or bold like black coffee? A great wine harmonizes these flavors perfectly. Imagine this, you take your first sip of a 2018 Malbec. At first, you taste dark berries, sweetness. Then, a zing of acidity hits your tongue, keeping it fresh. Finally, the tannins, the dry, slightly bitter feeling, coat your mouth, giving structure. In just 3 seconds, you've decoded the wine's entire profile. Scientists proved this in 2011, finding that the human tongue detects taste in under 1.5 seconds. That's why sommeliers don't gulp, they let the wine sit. Roll it over their tongue and analyze. Want to sip like a pro? Take a small sip, hold it for 3 seconds, and notice, is it smooth or sharp, light or heavy, dry or sweet? Every wine tells a story, you just have to listen. Because in fine wine, the first sip is never just a sip, it's a revelation. The perfect pair in 2008, Master Sommelier Aldo Somm shocked diners by pairing a bold Cabernet Sauvignon with dark chocolate. It seemed wrong until they tasted it. The rich, bitter chocolate softened the wine's tannins, creating a perfect balance. This is the magic of food and wine pairing. Great pairings aren't just random, they follow science. Wine has 5 key tastes: sweetness, acidity, tannins, alcohol, and body. Food interacts with these, either enhancing or clashing. Picture this, you order a buttery lobster. A sommelier suggests Chardonnay. Why? The wine's acidity cuts through the richness, making each bite feel lighter. But swap it with Cabernet, and suddenly, the wine overpowers the delicate seafood. A famous test in 1995 found that 80% of people enjoyed wine more when it was paired correctly. That's why sommeliers study pairing like an art. Want to try it? Remember, acidic wine, Sauvignon Blanc, best with citrusy or fatty foods. Tannic wine, Cabernet, perfect with red meat. Sweet wine, Riesling, great with spicy dishes. Next time you eat, think beyond the plate. Because in fine dining, the right wine can turn a meal into an experience. The Temp Trick. In 2012, wine expert James Suckling conducted an experiment. He served the same 2010 Merlot at 3 different temperatures: 5 degrees Celsius, 15 degrees Celsius, and 25 degrees Celsius. The result? Tasters thought they were drinking 3 completely different wines. This proves that temperature can make or break your wine experience. Most people serve wine wrong. Too cold, and flavors become muted. Too warm, and alcohol overpowers everything. Sommeliers know the perfect temperature unlocks a wine's true potential. Imagine this, you pour a chilled red wine at a summer party. It tastes dull, almost flavorless. But let it warm up a little, suddenly, rich berry and oak aromas emerge. The difference? Just a few degrees. Here's the sommelier's golden rule: sparkling wine serve at 5 to 7 degrees Celsius, crisp and refreshing. White wine, best at 7 to 12 degrees Celsius, balances fruit and acidity. Red wine ideal at 12 to 18 degrees Celsius, smooth and flavorful. In 2017, a wine study found that serving red wine slightly cooler, 15 degrees Celsius instead of 22 degrees Celsius, made it 30% smoother to drink. That's why fine dining restaurants always control wine temperature. Want to taste wine like an expert? Chill whites, slightly cool reds, and never serve at room temp. Because in luxury wine, temperature changes everything. The aftertaste test in 1976. During the famous Judgment of Paris, judges took a sip, but their real decision came after swallowing. Why? Because in fine wine, the finish matters more than the first sip. The finish, or aftertaste, is what lingers in your mouth after you swallow. A great wine doesn't disappear, it evolves. Sommeliers judge wine not just by taste, but by how long the flavors last. Imagine sipping a 2015 Bordeaux. As you swallow, rich notes of blackberry, oak, and spice stay on your tongue for 10+ seconds. That's a sign of quality. Now compare it to a cheap wine, its aftertaste vanishes in 2 seconds. The longer, the better. A 2018 study found that top-rated wines had finishes lasting over 15 seconds, while lower-quality wines faded in under 5 seconds. That's why sommeliers focus on what comes last. Want to test your wine? Take a sip. Wait. And count, under 5 seconds basic. Everyday wine 5 to 10 seconds good quality. Balanced flavors 10+ seconds premium wine. Deep complexity next time you drink wine. Don't just taste, time it. Because in luxury wine, the last impression is the most important. The Tasting Journal. In 1950, a young apprentice named Michael Broadbent sat in a French vineyard, taking notes as he sipped in 1890 Bordeaux. His mentor told him, "A great sommelier doesn't just drink wine, he remembers it." Decades later, Broadbent became one of the world's greatest wine critics, all thanks to one habit: keeping a tasting journal. In 2005, researchers found that writing down flavors improves memory by 60%. That's why top sommeliers carry tasting journals to track, compare, and sharpen their skills. Here's how to start your own. Wine name and year, remember the bottle. Color and clarity, what does it look like? Aromas, fruity, woody, floral. Taste and finish, how does it evolve? Rating, would you drink it again? Want to taste like a pro? Start journaling. Because in fine wine, the best bottles aren't just tasted, they're remembered. Now that you know how to taste like a sommelier, it's time for another luxury experience, Beluga Caviar. Is it really worth the price? Find out in our next video. Is Beluga Caviar worth the price? A taste test review, tap the link and watch now. And hey, if you love fine dining and luxury experiences, hit subscribe, because we bring the world of exclusivity right to you.